So I'm trying to be happy here for some person who evidently thinks I'm too somber. I almost don't know what to say of that. I think anyone who knows me at all, I'm basically what's known as a happy ass. I'm almost bouncing off the walls with glee. I sit still here on the YouTubes because I don't want to come off like I have a scream speech. So okay, there you go. So those people who are worried about my mood, I think you should worry about other things. At any rate, I want to follow up yesterday's comments and respond to the number of people who really latched on to, both by back channel and by just posting on the video, this concern over whether Jesus was God, was not God, how the Jesus was God makes reference into the Trinity claims and the theological implications of some of this. For my own, I think that was someone just came on Skype. I think from my own perspective, I would say that it's not the Trinity, it's not the theological stuff. There's lots of people who, they are aware of it, but lots of people aren't even aware of that. I think most people, when they think of Jesus and they want to claim that Jesus is the ideal person for them to make their life after, or the persons who call themselves a devout Christian and they grab their heart and they think of Jesus, these are people who think that this is the person who is, quotes, the son of, quotes, God. They also believe that this was a virgin birth, by and large, and they also believe that this is the key symbol for the resurrection of the body for some people, or at least the belief in a personal afterlife or immortality, the soul. It's these kinds of things that I guess I would want to call into question. That to me is the issue. Can't we find, seriously people, a robust sense of spirituality that's enlivened and enriched by our sense of mystery, of the differences between the senses? See, I think there's an ocular bias in the culture. Right? There's a bias toward the eye, and that itself makes it difficult to see how the Word is spirit and how there really isn't any way out of a theological position for a human being. I mean, atheism is a kind of theological position. It's a position of not believing in God. I mean, if you say you're not believing, you have some sort of position in theology with regard to what's radically other. I mean, that's interesting. There's no way out of having to deal with ultimate questions. That, to me, is fascinating. Language itself it's the love of an unknown other, a radically other. Language is ancient. It may well be as mysterious as the origin of the universe, right? How language emerged, how language is radically different than all other sign systems on this planet, and yet continuous with them. Language is fascinating, and language tricks us here largely because we rely upon the eye. See, the eye, when you look around for a moment, really take a second to look. When you look, you will see things in the distance, and those things in the distance are over against you, they're out there, and then you have a disclosure of the intervening distances between you and the things in the distance. It sort of rolls outward. Close your eyes for just a minute and try to think about sound. Sound is so different than sight. Whereas sight gives you things in the distance, sound gives you a liquidation of distances. Sounds are always intimately near. Even though the source of the sound is in the distance, distances are liquidated in hearing. That is, to hear is to be surrounded by when you listen to the language, you're surrounded by a person and you're in their presence. See, I think Walter Ong is so useful in this regard, and this is a robust kind of religiosity. I don't want to speak on, Ong's theology. It's, people can go read Ong's work. From my own perspective, what I would just want to suggest is that if a person just can't take seriously virgin births, if they can't take seriously divine intervention, and maybe they have what Ernest Becker calls a kind of yearning for an absent God, the felt sense that God is absent, is a wholly other, perhaps God is just self-relation or relation per se, simply relation, the fact that things are related as they are. Not just that there are things, the relations between things are as real as the things, and humans, to be a person, is to be a gathering of relations, and humans have a kind of self-relation. And that self-relation, the ability to talk to oneself, the ability to think about one's past, to anticipate where one will be in the future, all of these aspects of how we've transcended our animality, how we've become more than simply animal, how we're somehow dispersed in space and time. It's as if language itself is made in the image of divinity. It traffics in eternals, it traffics in essences. And the fact that we look for some God, some essence, something beyond experience shouldn't be that surprising. Language itself teaches us to look for that, right? I mean, I think of, the concept of a circle. I see a thing here and it has a circle, and I see another thing here and it has a circle, and then I see the mug here and it has a circle. As I see all those circles, eventually I come up to this idea of circle per se. And the circle per se isn't in any particular circle. Now you could say, well, it's just an abstraction across the circles, and yeah, it may well be that. But the fact of relation is itself fascinating. And especially when you start to move towards sound. Sound is, I think for me, the beginning of a kind of biologically friendly theology. It starts to make room for what the eye cannot see. It starts to make room for the capacity to recognize that there is a kind of common plight that we are all in, and the eye would lead me to think that it's all an individual stab and grab. But I think to worry about myself or to worry about comforts or conveniences, but it may well be that part of the purpose of life is to contemplate essences, is to contemplate circles, is to contemplate math, beauty per se, justice per se. I mean, Nietzsche has so much wonderful work on what he calls truth and lies in the ultra-moral sense, and then he says ideas are equating the unequal. Now, that's a very simple concept, right? Ideas are equating the unequal. I look, I see a leaf, I see a different leaf, I see a different leaf, then pretty soon I have an idea of leaf. Leaf is somehow an equating of the unequal. But that's what justice is. I mean, someone slaps you and then you have them pay a fine? How is that just? Somehow our idea of justice comes about through equating unequal acts. The notion of justice as it emerged in human history, not just retaliation. There's a kind of instant retaliatory act that animals you can see, but holding a grudge, contemplating it, and then serving justice at a radically different time seems to me quite fascinating. To really get at how all of this emerged, what it means, how can people learn to recognize themselves as one community, right? The kind of ship, we're all on a ship that's the love of the unknown other. And to try to address that, not a guy, not a fella, not some being in the sky. I mean, I was always puzzled by these images that have God seated at the throne. Are his feet sore? He needs to have a quick sit? He's pooped? Some of the way that we image God, there's wonderful stuff on God as otherwise than being. It's one of Cal Schrag's great books. But to start to ask questions of what it would mean for God talk, for people to realize that language as the word is made in the image of the divine logos, which resonates throughout the cosmos. The cosmos itself is an ambiguous dance of merger and division, and language is made in its image. This is the divine mystery. It's us. It's everything around us. Okay, again, some more thoughts. Thanks.